Welcome everyone to another Quartet Masterclass. Today is our 9th Quartet Masterclass to talk about leadership. But I know that everybody's talking about leadership, and my personal feeling is that there is a lot of, let's say, blah 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 or bullshit about leadership. And today, with Mickey, we're gonna have like a different approach. We're gonna have a really practical approach to leadership. As you know, we try to be quite specific, quite strategically, and also like to give you systems and frameworks in order that you can implement the ideas you're gonna present. And Mikael today gonna be sharing the system about how to implement this leadership strategy. So and a system that leverage enablement, facilitation, motivation, development, mentorship, and to the end, the end is to get the best of every individual that works in our teams and in our companies. So in order to like introduce a little bit who's Mickey, who's Alex, and who's myself, Mickey is the global head of remote culture and people experience at African Leadership Group. Mickey, welcome to another Quartet Masterclass.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
And we have here Alex as well. He's like the strategy and purpose man in GB Foods. So welcome, Alex.
Hi all. A pleasure.
And myself, but as you know, I help companies to communicate their employer brand and to help them attract more and better talent. And today, as we say, like we're gonna be talking about leadership. And as always, please do comment on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or wherever you're seeing us. And let me 1 second fix one thing. I think now we're gonna be streaming as well on LinkedIn. So if you are seeing us on YouTube, and if you're seeing us on LinkedIn, please do comment. You can share your vision on the leadership that you apply, the ideas that Mickey is gonna be sharing, or if you have any question about how to apply anything, please comment, because this is the way that we can get the most of these Quartet Masterclasses. This is the way that I think we enjoy more about doing them, because we learn with you. We don't have like the ultimate truth. This is our vision. This is how we see stuff. And by your questions, by your comments, by your participation is how we improve all together. So with that said, as you know, like if you cannot watch the full talk, you can go to our website and get quartet.com, where you can register, or you can subscribe to our newsletter, and you will receive the recording and also a written summary of this talk. So in order to start right away, I'll say I would like to Alex to introduce our framework, like the way we structure our system in Quartet and the way we've been structuring all the talks. Like we've been doing them like following a certain framework. So I'm gonna be sharing the framework so Alex can explain a little bit where we are, the general vision, and then we can start with Mickey as well. So Alex.
Awesome, Tony. Thanks so much. So at the end of the day, as Tony was mentioning, at Quartet, we have a fundamental belief that is that if we are all able to create a world and companies based on owners, the world will be a better place, people will be happier, and companies at the end of the day will be way more productive. We do believe in owners, and this is the framework that should help in your company create owners. At the end, create people that are highly engaged, highly productive, and at the end are capable of driving the results for your business. How we do that? So throughout the other sessions, we've been touching upon all the different elements that you see here, all the different bullets, but essentially what we do believe is that you need to discover yourself. Each company is unique, each company is authentic, and the 3 things that you need to understand very well is, first of all, what's your purpose? Why are you here? What are you trying to achieve? What is the impact that you want to generate to the world? And on top of that, once you have your purpose, once you have your vision, you need to understand what's the right people that will help you navigate that journey. And here we try to understand 2 critical elements of the organizations. The first one is, what is the culture that will lead you there? What are the values? What are the strategic behaviors that will help your company achieve that purpose? And second to that, but with the same importance, is the capabilities. What are the key skills that will make your company great, and again, help you achieve your purpose. Once this is clear, you need to put all this into the what we call the hiring process, right? You need to get the right candidates and transform them into partners. And the way to do that is to put all those elements, the purpose, all the EVP, into the inbound recruiting funnel, where Tony is absolutely an expert, and then create excellent brands that at the end of the day attract those candidates. After that, and that's usually a process that sometimes is very overlooked in companies, is how do you move from candidates to partners, right? How do you create people that are actually partners for your organization? And because of that, you need also to make some tweaks at your hiring process and onboarding process. And that's what we call predictive and relational hiring, that again, Miki here also devoted a great class not long ago. And after that, once you already have the people on board, you need to make sure that you maximize them, right? That you make them both engaged, happy, and productive. And today, actually, we're going to touch upon one of these topics, which is the role of leaders into creating that. But also, and this is going to be a topic of the next Squared Masterclass, will be how to develop them effectively. There's so much more you can do. And once this is clear, once you already have stars in your business, you need to convert them into owners, right? That last level of engagement. And we talked about it in our last masterclass about impact communication. How do you engage them? How do you go the extra mile? How do you make them real owners of your company? And also chief communications officers, as we like to say. And last but not least, also we had it in another masterclass, we talk about power governance. There's so many different ways to organize your company beyond the simple hierarchical structure. And that's what we call by power governance. So I see Miki already, wanting to start. So I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna let Miki run the show and inspire us on what he calls compound leadership.
No, that was a mistake. I was playing around with the presentation and move. Thank you, Alex, for the intro. Thank you, Tony, for the intro as well. And yeah, we're gonna try to offer a little innovative look at leadership. As always, take what is useful for you, leave what is not, and this is not the ultimate source of truth. It is just like an effort to rethink things and to readapt things to the reality of the 21st century and the information era. So let's get into it. So first of all, people leave managers and not companies. That's why this topic is one that is very important. So I think that sometimes companies may do everything well, or the leadership team, kind of like the executive team, can have like a great vision for the company, great strategy, great value add, but we hire great people as well. But then if the values and the behaviors and sort of like the leadership style that our managers have is not the right one, this can like snowball really quick, and it can impact our organization very, very quickly. And as it says here, people leave managers, not companies. This means that people will leave our companies, then we will have to put in like a great effort to hire new people. That also impacts our budget. So it's really important to take care of our management and not just assume that everybody knows how to lead. So in order to do that, I wanted to start with a little test. I don't know if Ines can share in the chat a little link for you guys to do a quick test. You can do it now, you can do it later. There's absolutely no rush. But there's a really interesting book that's called Multipliers. I really recommend it to you guys if you want to look it up. And it's about how you can, as a leader, become a multiplier. And by that, they mean that you can, as a good leader, you can multiply the effect of your good management and your good behaviors and your good values to other people and empower them to then make people able to make an impact themselves. No? And then this keeps expanding and expanding and expanding until it reaches almost all of your company. This that I shared here are a couple of examples on tendencies that we usually have as managers. And by the way, everybody who does that little quiz, it's a couple questions, but everybody who does a little quiz, you tend to get a result that you're a diminisher. So they call it in the book unintentional or accidental diminishers. So it's not something that you do intentionally. It's not something that you do in bad faith, but it just happens kind of like naturally because of the natural tendencies that we have as managers and as leaders. And these are some of the ideas that they share in the book of your natural tendencies that you should be aware of as a leader and that you should attempt to perhaps correct. And I'm just going to share a couple I don't want to go too deeply into it, but for instance, idea fountain, that's a tendency. Intention, for their ideas to stimulate ideas on others. Outcome, they overwhelm others who shut down or spend time chasing the idea du jour. So that's a bit of like a tendency that we need to review. Simple workarounds, create a holding tank. And before sharing new ideas, stop and ask yourself if you want the people who work for you to take action now, or is it later? So trying to not overwhelm people. Another one can be the protector, to keep people safe from political forces in the organization. Outcome, people don't learn to protect themselves, to fend for themselves. Another is the rescuer. Intention is to ensure people are successful and protect their reputation. Then outcome, people become dependent, which actually weakens their reputation. So these are some tendencies that are really eye-opening, because most of us fall into this. And there's simple workarounds that if you just you can just like Google it up and find multipliers. They not just in the book, but they have some resources that are really interesting to download. And I think that just by doing that, just by doing the little quiz that were shared, and then trying to assess yourself in this sense, you can become a better leader by tomorrow. So just to kick us off, I wanted to share this. But now let's get into the leadership framework and mindset in particular that we want to talk about today. So first of all, why compound leadership? Compound leadership is in a similar way to the multiplier effect, because by implementing good leadership in our company, what we can do is little by little get huge returns and impact and value derived as an outcome of that proper leadership. And compound, as you can see here, this is the little story of the chessboard and the sage that asks the king. The sage is the favor, and the king asks, "What do you want in return?" And the sage asks, "Well, I want 1 grain of in a chessboard. I want 1 grain of rice in the first square. Then I want double in the second. Then I want double in the third." And it kept going like this. And the king was like, "Yeah, of course, no problem." And then, of course, as you can see in the picture, everybody knows. I think that it was I even wrote it down, but it was like by the 20th square, there was like 1,000,000 grains. By the 40th, there was 1 billion. And then by the last one, it was like more rice than ever was produced in the world, cultivated in the world. So that's how powerful the compound effect works. And I think that this is a great mindset to have in leadership. You have somebody on your team that you're leading, and you invest bit by bit every day. And the huge, exponential curve that this can take on the people who you're managing can be huge and can have a huge impact for your team, for your company. And, as we always say, if your company does well, then society does well as well. So it's a win-win. So for this compound effect to work, though, we gotta have like a long-term mindset. And let's learn a bit more about it from Naval himself, Naval Ravikant, the founder of Angels List, who has like these great like tweets and has like one of like a really interesting thread on how to become rich, I think it's called. And one of the key principles was to play long-term games with long-term people, because by doing that, you can actually tap into the compound effect. Let's listen to it.
Talk a little bit about what industries you should think about working in, what kind of job you should have, and who you might want to work with. So you said one should pick an industry where you can play long-term games with long-term people. Why?
Yeah, this is an insight into what makes Silicon Valley work and what makes high-trust societies work. Essentially, all the benefits in life come from compound interest, whether it's in relationships or making money or in learning. So compound interest is a marvelous force where it's like, you start out with 1x what you have. And then if you increase 20% a year for 30 years, it's not that you got 30 years times 20% added on. It was compounding. So it just grew and grew and grew until you suddenly got a massive amount of whatever it is, whether it's goodwill or love or relationships or money. So I think compound interest is a very important force. You have to be able to play a long-term.
Cool. So now we have this perspective. Okay, the mindset of compounding in leadership. So investing on your team and your people bit by bit can really have an exponential effect for your team and for yourself. And to do that, you have to have this long-term game sort of like mindset that Naval was talking about, because if you just see people as like somebody that comes and go, you don't really invest, you see it a bit more transactionally, you don't invest in these longer term relationships within your team, you'll be less able to tap into the benefits of compounding. No? Now, let's now actually go into the framework itself. So now that we have this mindset and we have the reason why we call it compound leadership, and that's clear, let's go into the framework itself. So now you may ask, okay, now I know that I need to invest bit by bit, day by day on my team as a leader, but where do I invest? What do I do? So we figured that following the Maslow hierarchy of needs was a smart way to know where to start, where to continue, and until where to go. This is because the assumption here is that by addressing this hierarchy of needs that people may have, by filling or fulfilling these needs, people will increase your team satisfaction, performance, engagement, and so on and so forth. So where to start? First of all, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the first level is safety. So there's like employment, resources, health, property. What we ask you to do here, the hat that you should wear is the hat of the creator. You have to be a creator. You have to create, you have to invest in creating this safe space for people to be comfortable and have the right foundation for them to then have this performance, this engagement, etc. The second thing that you tap into, second type of need, is the love and belonging. Once as an employee, as a staff member, as a team member, I have like clarity on my little property within my team and my company is my role, no? So I have clarity on my role and everything is clear there. Then, I have the emotional support I need if there's a need for that. I have the resources I need to do my job well. So kind of like it's like the base, no? Once I have that and I feel safe, I can do my job. The next thing that I'm going to look for is the belonging bit. As human beings, we always crave the communities and things like friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. These are important for people. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about work or business or we're talking about life, it's always important. So your second role, the second place you're going to invest, you're going to be a connector. And you're going to invest in providing this community for your people and this sense of belonging for your people. The third one is esteem. So once you feel safe, once you feel connected and part of a community, the third thing that you will want is to feel like you're adding value, feel important, feel that you have status, feel recognized as well, feel that you're empowered to achieve goals, feel that people trust you. So all these things we can summarize it as esteem. So the next thing that you want to do, or the next hat that you want to wear, is the facilitator hat. This means that you're going to facilitate for this person. Once there's clarity and there's safety about what they need to achieve, you're going to try to ensure that this person gets to his or her goals, and then sort of like makes an impact in the company. So that then also like you will try to make sure that they feel recognized. So as a facilitator, you will like clear roadblocks, guide, support where they need. You want this person to have success. And by having success and recognizing this success, people will feel this esteem. And then finally, once I have safety, I belong to the community, I'm having success, and I bring value to the table, the ultimate thing that is going to keep me in the company almost forever is self-actualization. If we find the ways, it can be in tour of duties, it can be in many different ways, but if we find the ways to keep people self-actualizing and improving and developing and growing, if we can keep that ad infinitum, that's going to be a really great strategy for retaining this person beyond the 2 years average in startups, or 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know how much it is in corporations, but it's going to be easier for us to retain talent. So self-actualization is the desire to become the most that one can be. So you have to invest, you have to wear the hat of the mentor, and you have to invest on the growth of the person, on the impact of the person, on the development of the person, purpose, etc., etc. That's a bit of the summary on where to invest as a leader. And then, of course, you will get this by investing on all these things, you will get this like ripple effect, you will get this compound effect on satisfaction, engagement, performance, etc. Now, let's go bit by bit. What do we really mean? So the first role, remember, was the creator role. So you have to invest in safety. That's the first place where you put your money for it to compound. And what do we mean by that? I think that the key word here is environment. So you have to create the safe space. You have to create the environment in which people can flourish. So that's the first place where you need to keep adding your money and your money and your money and your money day after day. And how do you do that? Well, providing context and clarity. Make sure that everybody has a lot of context. Everybody has a lot of clarity on what they try to achieve, on the outcomes, on the goals, OKRs, whatever we call it. There must be a lot of clarity also on the vision of the company, on the strategy of the company. Everybody has to have the whole picture. So invest on that. Setting the standards. Everybody must know what the standards are for, and the standards of excellence are in this company or in their team. You can assist on goals crafting so that everybody has really clear, not just team goals, but also individualized goals. Creating the systems for everything to work out, creating the ways of working, enabling emotional well-being so that, if, I know that besides my goals and my job, I also have, the basic resources that I need to do my job, the basic well-being that I need to do my job, the basic ways of working, if it's remote, if it's in office, whatever it is. But you need to invest in creating this environment bit by bit where the people will feel safe. Okay, there's a system, there's ways of working, I have my resources, I have my well-being, I have my goals, I have all the context. Now, okay, I'm owning this, I feel comfortable, I feel safe. That's the first place where you need to invest. And then the next, this line by Reid Hoffman, I think that summarizes it really well. A leader's job is not to put greatness in people, but rather to recognize that it already exists. So your main job is not to, oh my God, I need to put greatness. This person is stupid, and I need to put greatness in this person. No, that's not like that. Recognize that you did your job well at hiding. That person is great, and you only need to create the environment for this person to flourish and this greatness to come out and emerge from this person. The second stage, the connector. So here we're investing in love and belonging. So how does this play out? The keyword here is community. You have to invest in providing this community for the person. People, crave communities, this sense of belonging since forever. It's instilled in our DNA, because back in the day, without the community, we would not be able to survive. So we still crave that today. And as a connector, where do you put your little money? Where am I investing to get the compound benefits? Well, you have to invest in building relationships within your team and with your team members, in generating trust, in creating space for vulnerability. Vulnerability also impacts trust, ensuring collisions between your team members. Is it on the office? Is it remote? Whatever, but you can ensure the collisions. Instilling values in the daily behavior so that make sure that your values are seen on your behaviors, ensuring that your working principles are also clear and seen on the day-to-day. So you have that with shared values, shared principles, this trust, these relationships, and these collisions, you kind of generate a community. And it's important because as managers sometimes, or as leaders, we invest much more on the facilitation part, sometimes, and on guiding or on helping create the goals. And sometimes we feel that these other things, I think that the role of the connector and the mentor are things that, okay, they are important, but it's like, okay, if I have time, it's like something that we see as not as priority as the other stuff. And I think that we should give it as much relevance as to the other stuff, because it's like a full pack. If we're missing one of the pieces, it's sort of like the castle, the cards fall down. So it's important to invest on everything, and community is key to generate this trust with your people. The most important words for a leader are, I screwed that up. That's coming from The Culture Code, a book that I recommend you all to read by Daniel Coyle. And I think that it's important I put it here because it speaks about vulnerability. By being vulnerable and by ensuring that everybody can be vulnerable in your team and just share mistakes and share problems and challenges and then sharing all these things, creating this safe space, it's really important to then generate trust. And I think that trust is one of the keys of creating our community. Then there's the role of the facilitator. This is sort of like one of the more typical ways in which, or places in which a manager or a coach or whatever invest their time. And this is investing in esteem, because you want to facilitate for people to reach their goals. And when people reach their goals, they feel important. They feel like they're succeeding. They feel like they're adding value. And then they feel like they have esteem if we recognize them as well. No? So if they reach their goals and then we also recognize them, then it's even better. So keyword here is support. And we call support because we don't have to force too much. We don't have to be there all the time. We don't have to overprotect like we were talking at the beginning. It's more like support. It's more like pull from me, I'm here. Pull from me if you need. I'm fully available for you. So whenever you need, just pull and I'll be there for you. So we don't want to be pushing too much. We don't want to be overprotecting. We don't want to be micromanaging. We want to be there available for whatever they need us. No? The role of the facilitator can have like different aspects. It can be clear obstacles. So you have clarity on your objectives. You go out there, you're empowered to go and chase these objectives, but then you might find like a roadblock here and there that sometimes you're going to be able to, with your empowerment, to fix, and sometimes it's going to be a bit too difficult. No? So you need my support. Okay, perfect. Feedback on how I'm doing and what can I do better for the next time. Guidance if you feel like I'm digressing a little bit from our focus. Empowerment to just go on and achieve my goals. Accountability, give motivation, to make sure that everybody is pumped week after week. Create debate and ask the real and important questions for people to keep redefining what they're doing and deliver a better outcome. Recognizing the talent that people have, the skills that the people have, superpowers, achievements, just making sure that they feel like we see what they bring to the table. No? So that's the role of the facilitator. That's where you invest at this stage to get this compound effect. One quote here is, a business leader's job is to create great teams that do amazing work on time and then get out of the way. That's important. So what we were saying, really make sure that you empower, really make sure that you support, but you don't overdo it. You don't want to be, fathering kind of like the team. You want to be there, ready for when they need you, but you don't want to be micromanaging. That's by Patty McCord, ex-CPO of Netflix. And then finally, another one of the forgotten ones, because on the day-to-day, it's easy to forget about this because it's like facilitating and, you have such tight deadlines that you have to do so much stuff. And then sometimes it's easy, it happens to me too, to forget about your mentor tasks as a leader. And so here you're investing in self-actualization. You're making sure that this person is ever growing, it's ever actualizing, and it's getting to new heights week and month after month. So keyword here being impact. You want to keep increasing the impact of this person, the reach of this person, the development. It's constantly evolving, and you want to make sure that you invest on activities like high leverage activities. That's a really important one. So every once in a while, you invest in activities that will enable that person to make an impact, on the future, long term. So this is something that I do today, I invest on it today, and it's not just useful for today, it's useful, down the line on your next projects. That we call it high leverage because it's got a high impact in the future. It can be that, instead of doing like the slide decks yourself, or instead of doing modeling in Excel that is a bit tricky and you prefer to do yourself, at some point you have to stop and say, okay, I'm going to dedicate one day or, whatever, to just teach my team on how to do this model so that they can do it in the future. Or, it's always easier to think that I can do it better and always take it on yourself. But I think that one of the most important things that we have to do sometimes, this is not feedback. So this is separate from the facilitator job. This is more mentor. This is more like development that comes separate from that performance feedback. This is just like, helping the development of that person in critical skills that they will need to do their job well. Then providing inspiration, of course, storytelling, give voice to the person too, so that they can actually provide you feedback, to give feedback on what direction should the team be taking, company, listening a lot, becoming a role model, offering career advice in the company and even outside the company. So being this partner, this thought partner, and this mentor that can help drive the career of the person. So that's another place where you can invest. The quote that we chose for this is, every conversation is an opportunity to provide excitement, awareness, and motivation. So as leaders, it's really important to bring this to the table. Beyond the development, there's also this component of bring this through purpose, through storytelling, this excitement, this motivation, connecting the job of somebody to the impact in customers. So all these things are really important that we invest on as leaders. And this, again, is one of the things that I think that we need to do a better job to not forget as leaders, because it's really important. So kind of like as a summary, let's see a bit on what we discussed. First role I have as a leader is the creator. And the keyword here being environment. I have to invest in creating the safe space. I have to invest in creating the environment. It will compound for sure. So I really have to make sure to put my little coins on it. So context and clarity, standards, goal crafting, systems, ways of working, emotional well-being, resources. These are givens, but these are like the foundations of the house. If the team doesn't have these things, then it's really difficult to build on that. It's really difficult to get to any objective. So first place where you need to invest time as a leader. Remember, sometimes you will want to micromanage and dedicate your time to, do the job of your team. and you feel like it's okay because then the outcome is going to be better, blah, blah. But then by doing that, you're taking time or money, quote unquote, for our analogy, our metaphor, that you could invest in being a creator, creating this safe space. The second, as we discussed, is the connector and creating the community. Invest, and again, it's easy to forget about this one, but invest in relationships, invest in trust, collisions, communication, vulnerability, values, principles. This is your job too. And by creating this strong community that is fueled by vulnerability, trust, communication, etc., and the values and principles, you will build this bond that will take you to a next level of delivery, a next level of performance and engagement in your team. Third place, that's the obvious one, not the facilitation one. The only thing so this one is a bit more clear. This is something that we do more usually as managers and leaders. The only thing to remember here, you're supporting, you're there for, if they need you, but don't overdo it, don't overpush it, don't micromanage. So, because people tend to invest too much time on this facilitation part, and then they sacrifice connecting, they sacrifice mentoring. So it's important to not overdo this. Why? Because, well, there's a win-win. People will be more empowered, will have more time or more freedom to create. So that's good for them. They're going to be engaged just because of that. And the other part of the win is that you're going to be able to dedicate time to your other jobs as a leader, which is the connector and the community and the mentoring and the self-actualization. So finally, mentoring, keyword being impact. High leverage activities to keep developing your people in the skills they like or they need. Inspiration, storytelling, career advice within and without the company, listening to your people, giving them voice, role modeling. These are things that, why do your people need to go search a mentor outside? I think that in our recent engagement survey in our company, one of the lowest beats that was that people were not seeing their managers as mentors. And I think that that's a trend across companies. So as managers, we need to keep reminding ourselves, it's not just about facilitating. It's not just about creating clarity. It's also about creating the community and becoming mentors for our teams. That doesn't mean that the teammate doesn't, so the team member doesn't have another mentor somewhere else or whatever. They can get support outside as well, but you play a role in that mentorship. It's important for a leader to play a role in that mentorship for a team member. And finally, we're going to close it with show me what you can get done when you have no budget and no authority. That's how you know you're a leader. I think we should all reflect on this because it says a lot of things. Sometimes but we live with the authority that comes with our titles. But I think that we need to, and I think that there's a book, the leader with no title, something like that. And so it's important to understand, let's do things in a way so that people want to follow us. Let's not just impose things on people. No, let's inspire people so that they follow us. Let's create the clarity. Let's engage people in a way. Let's storytell in a way so that people want to follow us and get the job done. Let's not tap too much on accountability. Let's not tap too much into authority. No? And finally, another beautiful thing is the ripple effect. If we do that, and I think that it's really top down. If the top leadership is not doing their leadership job well, is not investing in these steps that we just talked about, or is under investing in some of them, then this means that imagine top executives, top leadership is under investing in mentorship. Well, guess what's going to happen with the middle manager? They're going to under-invest in mentorship as well, and that's going to drill down into the front lines. So it's going to create a problem across the company. But what happens when we do the opposite? What happens when we actually have a healthy balance on where we invest our money as managers or as leaders so that we create this compounding leadership? Well, what happens is that we not just create exponential results because of the compound effect that we just saw with the rise in the chess, we also, even amplify this more because everyone that we touch with good leadership will then become a good leader with other people. So this is going to create this ripple effect that is going to even get the compounding effect to a new dimension. So that's the beauty of this, is that it has so many different effects that put together is like a magic. And that's it. And to close us off, before we open it up, we decided to add a little bit on self-leadership because okay, I need to invest on all those things. That's fantastic. But how do I first make sure that I have good leadership kind of capacity? Sort of imagine you have a little piggy bank of coins that then you can use to invest on the different things that we said before, on creator, on mentor, on connector, facilitator. So kind of like the size of this piggy bank or how much coins you have inside is important too, because if you don't have enough coins, you will not be able, even though you know what you need to do, you will not have, and you create the space. If you don't have enough coins, the effect that you're going to be able to create is not going to be enough. Okay? 1 second, let me just close this. So it's important to work on self-leadership in parallel, because you're not going to just stop being a leader. So if you're already a leader, you can just work that on in parallel, and there's many ways to work on it, and we'll discuss now. Daniel Goleman has a really great Harvard Business Review article from 2004. I really like old articles because if they prevail in time, means that they're really, really good. So this is from 2004. When I compare star performers with average ones in senior leadership positions, nearly 90% of the difference in their profiles was attributable to emotional intelligence factors rather than cognitive abilities. So this means that when you get at a certain level of seniority in a company, of leadership in a company, technical skills and cognitive skills are almost the same. The difference between a good leader and a great one is always emotional intelligence. So that's why it's so important to make your piggy bank bigger, to put more coins in your piggy bank that then you will be able to invest to create the compound effect and compound leadership. You have to invest on your own emotional intelligence. And why do we mean by that? These are the several stages of emotional intelligence. For these, there's infinite number of programs and courses, and there's many ways that you can tap into this. We will talk about it more in the future. We're not going to explain the how now, but we're going to explain the what. What do we mean by emotional intelligence? What do I need to work on? First part that you need to work on is self-awareness. It's really important to have the ability to recognize and understand your emotions and their effect on other people. That's ultra important. That's the basis. That's the foremost, sort of like the first step towards having this emotional intelligence. How do I can start to understand whether I have it or not? Well, you start becoming more self-confident. You will know when to ask for help because you know your own limitation, and that's not a problem. Your ego is under check too. You're honest with yourself and with others. And you also have this clarity on where you're heading and why. So this clarity on your purpose can also have like positive effects on other people. The second part is self-regulation. It's not enough to understand your emotions and their effect. It's also important to learn to control them, to regulate these emotions and to control disruptive impulses before acting, the thing before acting. When we get there, we will reduce like the number of like the hostility, panic, conflict. It will create an environment of trust and fairness. It will create like the seeds for long-lasting relationships. So self-regulation is even more important almost than, there's not one that is more important than the other, but self-regulation, I think that it's so difficult to get completely right. And it's a very good place to invest if you are a leader of a team. So self-awareness, now self-regulation. The third one is motivation. Having the capacity to have this passion to work for reasons beyond money and status, propensity to just pursue goals with energy, having like this big energy, big passion for the work that just gets transmitted into other people. That's another big aspect of emotional intelligence, having this capacity to just like drive yourself forward and having this optimism about life and about work and etc. This passion. Signs of this: has a big drive to achieve goals, loves to learn and do better, explores new approaches, overcome setbacks. This is kind of like how you can see. These three stages are self. Okay, self-awareness, self-regulation, self-motivation. And now the last two stages of emotional intelligence are external, are towards other people. So when you have the self-awareness, self-regulation, and motivation, I think that you start to have like a better capacity to empathize with other people. You understand your own emotions, you can regulate your own emotions, you start to being less offensive with other people so that also they can like open more, and it's easier for you to understand them. So it's the ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people. Science considers other people's feelings, understands everyone's views, listens actively, coaches, mentors. You start to see like the relationship between this and the little investment buckets that we discussed before. No? So empathy is a really important one. And then final is the social skill, ability to manage relationships and build networks and rapport. So science is able to persuade others, is good at finding rapport, collaborates well with other teams. So having these interpersonal skills, the social skill, is actually also important to be a leader and to kind of like inspire people, move people towards the places where they need to get to, etc., etc. So investing on as a takeaway, and we're done. Investing on having a larger piggy bank or having more coins on your piggy bank to then be able to invest to generate the compound leadership comes through emotional intelligence. I'm almost certain that you're a good leader, but if you want to go from being a good leader to an amazing leader, research shows that that difference is emotional intelligence, and you need to invest on these 5 buckets that you see here to become a better leader. There's many ways to do it. We'll talk about it another time. And to compare it, I used to play tennis, and to compare it is like, there's 3 factors that impact tennis performance. There's physique, there's technique, and there's mental. Everybody who's at the top 100 in the world has an amazing physique and an amazing technique. They have like the best drive, backhand, like they have it all figured out. The difference is that mental capacity. That makes the difference between a number 20 and a number 2 or a number 1. So this is the same. It's not enough to be the smartest, to have all the experience and technical skills. You have to add that emotional intelligence to go from a good leader to a great one. That's it. Thank you.
Fantastic, Mickey. Thanks for the presentation. So I feel like at least for me, it like gave me a lot of room for thought and also like a lot of ideas of what can I do to improve myself as a leader and obviously as a professional as well. And I was like kind of doing the assessment to myself while you were explaining stuff. And one thing I want to notice in the last part, sometimes we have a better picture of ourselves than we really have to others. So I think like it's good like to do this test, which I'm gonna be taking after this talk, because obviously like getting to know yourself is always good, and I think you have like this curiosity about improving yourself. It can help a lot. But what happened to me, I remember when I was in Talent Club with my team, is that the feedback I got, and I believe that I was super empathic. And the feedback I got is like I was not at all. And so for me, it was a really big surprise. And I was like, well, and you don't tell. And I've been working with the same team for quite a long time. That means like maybe a couple of years. And they told me after 2 years that I was not having empathy. And maybe I had like this relationship and I built this relationship, but I was lacking in some aspects. So I think like for me, it's good like you give some room in order to receive feedback about your leadership style, or to get like some certain like, I don't know, status about in which level are you and which are your strengths, which are your weaknesses, in order to improve. And also I want to listen what Alex has to say. And I will ask you afterwards, I know that we said like we won't talk about how we can improve this kind of stuff, but maybe I will ask you if you can kind of provide us best practices or actions or things you implemented in order to improve this leadership style. So that will be one thing. I don't know, maybe do one-to-ones and schedule these one-to-ones, like every 2 weeks. So you have this room in order to talk, to get to know your people, become the mentor, listen, and this kind of stuff that maybe if in the daily activities won't happen. I don't know. This is one idea that just came to my mind. So, and I don't know if you can share with us some ideas, and also like if you have any exercise in order how to ask feedback about your leadership kind of style. I don't know. I'm just asking out of curiosity if you have any practice that you receive as an employee, or you did as a leader in order to assess a little bit your situation.
Yeah. Well, I actually did this little quiz. Can you guys hear me well? Yeah. Okay. I have a little echo.
A little echo, eh? Maybe Tony go mute. Maybe.
Yep.
Hello. Okay. So yeah, first of all, like the most recent thing that we did is this quiz that we talked at the beginning of we can share maybe again on the chat. but it's really revealing, because sometimes even when you're trying and you're intentional about being a good leader, you're not, because we have these natural tendencies to be diminishers, and we do it without even noticing. And nobody told us like that this might, impact our teams in a less positive way. So I think that that's a test that was really revealing, and everybody was getting diminisher scores. There's almost nobody that takes it for the first time. It's like, oh, look, I'm a super multiplier. Like almost nobody, and that's super revealing. So I would love for people to take it, because it's very, very interesting. And then it's like it's like you go to the doctor and somebody tells you, okay, you have I don't know, whatever this is. Okay, now it's for real. I was thinking that maybe I have a problem with now it's confirmed. So it's kind of like you get this confirmation, and it's eye opening, and you just like, okay, maybe I should start working in these little things. That's one thing that we did. But I think that there's two things that helped me in particular. One was that we did a training that was called Search Within Yourself, Search Inside Yourself. That was run by Google, and it was about getting this emotional intelligence in our leadership. And there was a big component of meditation in that course, because through meditation there was, and it seems like, oh my God, meditation. No, it was addressed in a really pragmatic and practical way. Like you were sort of like meditating to have this self-awareness, ability to recognize and understand your emotions, etc. And then there was also other exercises. There were exercises for everything, practicing active listening for empathy, etc., etc. But I remember that one of the most that had the bigger impact were the meditation ones, or sort of like trying to remember situations in which you got out of control, or that you didn't react according to what that would have been more efficient because the emotions took the best out of you. So it was a really interesting program to actually get these like first stages of emotional intelligence, which is like self-awareness, self-regulation, and even go beyond that and get to parts like empathy that to me too, it's something that I'm ever growing in that. That's one thing that you can do. The other thing is what I was saying before. It's just to come with a realization that you have, as a leader, imagine you have like 10 tokens of time in a week that you can invest. And sometimes we have this, tendency to try to do a lot ourselves, Like, okay, no, but if I do this, like, it's gonna be better because, I have more experience. So you spend too many of your tokens into getting things done yourself. And one of the learnings that I got from the Andy Grove's, founder of Intel, High Output Management book, is that as a leader, you need to, and that's why I put high leverage activities before. You need to invest on the mentor part. And one of the mentor things is development. And one of those things is high leverage activities. You need to invest on high leverage activities so that the team works those things up for you instead of you having to do them all the time. If you invest more on mentorship, and you say that, okay, once a week or once every 2 weeks, you invest 1 day into a high leverage activity, teaching deeply your team to do something that normally you do, you use 1 token in that given week, but you save 2. And then maybe those other 2 that you're saving because you're not dedicating them to operationally do something, you can then use them to act as a connector, or to invest in relationships, or to do something about team building, or to share, create a space, or do a session just for all of us to, recognize each other's mistakes and be vulnerable with each other, whatever. Like you use another token for that. And then there's another token that you're going to use, like, okay, I'm going to have conversations with my team about career development. Are they happy with their roles? Like, where do they want to get next? How can I help them? So it's just about understanding that as a leader, you have limited tokens in a week. And that normally, and I don't want to now judge everybody on the same, but normally you tend to use, let's say, 6 of your 10 tokens into doing things yourself that probably somebody else could have done, and 4 of your tokens in facilitation. So like kind of like sometimes micromanaging or sometimes just facilitating, but you're in that kind of like fine line, no? And then your 10 tokens are gone. So that's the problem mainly that we have as leaders. That it's not that we don't know how to build relationships. It's not that we don't know how to be a good coach or mentor for our team members. It's just that we're left without tokens for that. So we just gotta kind of like manage our tokens better, invest on high leverage activities so that we can let go of some of the things that we do ourselves, invest on trusting more our team so that we can let go of some of the micromanagement, So then you free up all these tokens that you can reinvest on things that are like creating the safe space or safer space, because sometimes there can be clarity on the goals, but there's no support on emotional well-being. And then people don't have emotional support or resources. Okay, but you didn't look into that because you didn't have time. So it's just about managing your tokens properly and saving, creating space to invest on these other parts that we normally know how to do, but we just don't know how to. We don't have time to do them.
Quick follow-up, Mickey, on this one, because I agree with you. At the end, there's a skills side of it when it comes to leadership, but I think the deeper problem here is around time allocation, right? And spending the right amount of time with your teams. And usually you get to a point where at the beginning of your career, you don't manage people, and you get to the point where you start managing people, right? So what you're accustomed to do is deliver on outputs, right? That's your definition of success. So my company will value me more if I deliver certain outputs. I think that mindset sort of goes up with you, right? And when you manage people, you still think that the company will value you or will, promote you if you still deliver a lot of outputs. And I think that in a certain way, companies are wired like that. So the way we value our leaders is based on the output that they generate, on the responsibilities, right? And the feedback systems that we have, or even the performance and incentive systems, are usually based on what output, what responsibilities has the leader carried. And we sort of forget about the people side of it, or the leadership part of it, right? Which is, how have you developed your team, or how are you doing with your team? Does your team, really perform well, and so on and so forth. So my question is, are companies fundamentally wired to value the output part of it and not the leadership part of it? And what, as a company, what processes should you rethink to be able to drive, to make sure that leaders are incentivized to find that time to devote to leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very, very good point. I think that is absolutely true. And even between peers, or even like when you're in a team too, and it happens to me too sometimes, that you have to actually stand your ground and defend your time to be a leader, no? Because otherwise you can be, and especially in startups, you can be called out like, okay, you're not hands-on, like, wait a minute. It's not because I don't want to do stuff. It's not because I'm not hands-on. It's because the type of value that I can add to this team is in creating the systems, in the creator part, is in creating the relationships, is in mentoring. So if I'm too hands-on, I'm not going to be able to do that. So there's always a component of reputation, not just like by how you're being assessed. That's a problem, I'm sure. You're not being assessed as a leader differently than you are as a normal employee. At least that's what happens in our company. I think that's something that we can work on. That's one. And number two, the reputation also impacts. Like, oh my God, I have to be hands-on because, it's and even in a startup, it's even more, no? And then by being hands-on, you're sacrificing all stuff. To me, it was really revealing when I read in that by Andy Grove, the founder of Intel, that he was saying, your output as a leader is the sum of the outputs of your team members. That's your output. It's not what you do with your hands. That doesn't mean that if there's a necessity, you don't support the team. It's like, oh my God, like I go into the trenches and I do it, of course. But that shouldn't be the norm, because by making that the norm, then you're under-investing in other places that's going to have a bigger impact in the company or in your team with you being a leader. So I think that's very, very important. And to respond to your final question, I think that one of the things that differentiate companies that get to like, 10 million in revenue to $1 billion in revenue, it's called them elephants, is that one is that they have a lot of cars. There's like several things that several check boxes that they tick. And another one is that they have really strong ways of working. So, and by ways of working, I mean that we can instill a mindset that we need to invest in mentoring, we need to invest in relationship building. But maybe what we also can do is to create these ways of working to ensure that every team has these like Monday check-ins, and then they have the Friday checkouts, and then they have the daily check-ins in Slack, and then maybe once a month they have a team building session that everybody participates, and once a month there's the one-on-one developmental conversations that don't have anything to do with the day-to-day or feedback and then there's one-on-ones every week. So there's like a lot of spaces that you can create in an automatic way, so that everybody all the teams have the same ways of working. And in those ways of working, you instill time for mentoring, you instill time for relationship building and community. So you make it like automatic. It doesn't depend on each leader, whatever he or she prefers.
Fantastic. That was the thing I was talking about, like how do you implement this kind of stuff. So that there were like really cool examples about systematizing this. I didn't know like you mentioned it within ways of working, but I think it's cool like to have it, because this way you cannot escape, because if you leave it to your power of will, that is not happening, because always there is like some stuff to do. But if you make that as a ritual, I think that you commit to that, and you know that you are making a sacrilege if you move it or you cancel it, and you are like kind of like letting down your team. So I think it's a good way to force yourself into becoming a better leader and to allocating the right time, that as Alex was saying. And here in the chat we have like a question that he was asking us, Javier, should a leader share personal situations with the collaborator or with the team? That I think sometimes this is like the in big corporations, or I don't know, there is like this myth that if you are too friendly, if you share too much your life, then people won't know where is the limit, where the border, where the boundaries, you know. And what is your thinking about this point?
Yeah, that's going to be really like people with different opinions. So I don't have the ultimate source of truth. But I was reading the culture code, and I remember that they were giving the example of Phil Jackson, the coach at the time of the San Antonio Spurs. I hope I got it right, because Phil Jackson has been in many places. I think it was Phil
Jackson is Chicago Bulls. I think you're talking Popovich. Greg Popovich.
Yeah. Maybe I got the coach wrong. One of these like really classical, maybe it's Popovich. So he was leading the Spurs for many years. They got some titles, and they were explaining how in the conversations that he was having with the team, they were like never talking about basketball. Like he was making sure that they could connect at a different level. Like, because if they just connect at a work level, that was like the level of the community or the level of the connection or collaboration in that team was here. But if he would make sure that they could connect at a higher level and discuss politics, or like he was making sure that the team knew that they're not just here to get the work done and then bye, that they're a team, they're a group, they're a community, you know, and that they're united by more than just, you know, that piece of work. That leads me to believe that it's interesting to talk about, you know, personal stuff as well, if need be. And then there's the vulnerability aspect, in which by sharing your own problems, quote unquote, or mistakes or setbacks or challenges in your professional or personal life, you can create this safe space for everybody to do the same. And sometimes it's good to be able to share that, because maybe one day I have a problem with something in my life, and I'm not going to be able to perform that day. And then maybe I'm afraid to tell my manager, because, oh my God, what is he gonna or she gonna think, no? And I think that it also it's a way to invest into creating this vulnerability and safe space for just like sharing his personal stuff, so that then people can also feel like they can do the same, and we can adapt to the needs of anyone at every different time. No, I think that right now we're a remote company. In my case, we don't even see each other. So it's difficult to know if somebody's having like shit day, or somebody like, I don't know, somebody could like have lost a kid and I wouldn't know. So it's just like, and that's an extreme example, but it's just like important to create the safe spaces for people to share their stuff, because then as a leader you can, you know, adapt to you know, giving them the space they need, or being flexible when they need, etc., etc. And if you don't do that first, I don't think that your team is gonna, you know, care to do it, or is gonna be willing to do it. And so I would tend to think that it's okay, and it's good to talk about personal stuff, and it's good to actually also share your problems, challenges, or stuff that's happening in your personal life, so that everybody can feel like they can do the same.
It's funny you mentioned that about
Sorry,
Alex, I'm just gonna let you talk, but it's funny because I was watching the other day like the All Black All or Nothing documentary, and they were saying exactly the same. Like when we go to trainings or we go to the locker room, the only thing we don't talk about is football. Like we talk about everything else, and we share like how is life, how is family, and like and I remember one of the guys was saying like now I'm gonna have a kid, and with the support of everybody in the team explaining how they manage, like for me it's better my life as a whole. It's not like I just talk to them about my professional stuff and the rest is like, no, I have to talk to someone else, because at the end you spend so much time with the people in your company that you need that. And also I was thinking, without knowing this personal situation, without knowing this personal information, it's difficult to feel empathy for that person in any given situation, because I don't know what they're going through. And if there is no room in order to explain, but even yourself, as you were saying, like if you don't explain yourself when you are struggling, when you are not focusing, people will tell like, oh, Tony is a lazy bastard because he's not answering my emails, and maybe like I don't know, I'm struggling with something, I'm doing a moving or something happened. But if I never share this kind of stuff, it's difficult. So people can feel like this personal relationship with you, no? And then create this bonding.
I think that now that we're remote, and this is not something that I brought, I think that it was in the culture of the company, and then I learned it for myself too. I know more, of the shitty stuff that happens in my team's lives more now than before, because it's really important for me to know. If I don't know these things, if I don't know that somebody's feeling down today, then it's like really impossible to communicate or understand, because I don't see the person. Yesterday somebody like had to take out a tooth and it was like hurting like hell. I was like, I'm having a shitty day. I was like, okay, no worries, you'll just connect when you can. So, and I think that by saying I had a shitty day, same like the presentation was saying, I made a mistake, so I had a shitty day, is also another of the most important things that a manager can say. It's not beneficial for anybody if the leadership or the leader pretends to be like a superhero that is always connected, always good, always great, because then people have this like stress to do the same. And it's like, oh my God, they burn out. So it's like, okay, to say like, hey guys, today I had a shit day. I didn't get anything done. And then people will feel that it's a safe space to share the same. And then I think that we will be able to help each other and get to a better place.
Just to add, I mean, the question is, why wouldn't you, right? I don't think there's a single argument on why you wouldn't do that at work.
Yeah, but I understand there's the fear of like, I need to keep my but I personally think that it's not beneficial to just pretend to be a superhero, or to just be cold, or just to talk about work stuff. I think that it's not going to benefit the impact or delivery of the team in any way.
Yeah, we're humans after all, at work or outside of work.
It's life. Remember that it's life. The work is part of life. So.
And besides this stopper that you were saying, like time allocation, what do you think are other stoppers in order to leaders or managers to implement that? Is the lack of knowledge? Is the lack of self-awareness? Is the lack of willing to commit because maybe you're a leader, but you rather work on stuff and not with the people, and you were appointed as a manager, and now you have to manage people and you don't know how to do it? Is the lack of training about how to become a better manager? What are your like the things that I don't know, if someone wants to assess their own company, or like the stoppers you saw, and what could be like the solution or a possible solution of that?
To me, can you share my screen a second? So I will respond with my screen. Can people see it? Yeah. That's it. That to me, that's the answer. The system is the answer. So it's very difficult to, whenever like the leadership style that is implemented on you by your leader or your manager, it's really difficult to then say like, okay, no, I'm going to be the one that stops this trend, and I'm going to be the one that is going to start investing more on like relationship building, on being vulnerable, on trust, on mentoring, on coaching, on creating safe space and emotional support. If they don't do it with you, and you see it as a normal or as a given to just like, micromanage, or, define the goals for your team without their input, or like whatever practice is installed in your company, it's then very difficult to just like be the one that's like, okay, I'm going to break the chain. So I think that's the system that, again, like it comes from, and we can go back now to other sessions, but these systems that comes from the the revolution, industrial revolution, where you have to kind of like manage a bit more based on this fear, no, that I need to micromanage, I need to check the inputs, I think that this like is sort of like partially the system that we have today, the management style that we have today still, and it's sort of difficult to get out of this wheel and to do it differently when you're in a system that is working like that. No, it's hard to as an individual to do something, but it's not impossible. So in my opinion, these things are top down, and it's important that top leadership understands this and does it right, and then I think that it automatically will be adopted by everybody. I think that's the other, and there might be others, but if I think about the ultimate source of the problem, I think it's the system and the fact that the leadership that you get, it's so many times or oftentimes the leadership that you produce or that you keep.
I think the other day we had an internal roundtable talking about trust at our company, and there was one quote that I think illustrates partially what you were saying now. That is around, they say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and I think it's a very good way to put it, right? So ultimately, make sure that you show care for them, because if you don't show care, if you don't care about them, they will not care about you, right? And I think that's the essence of leadership, rather than knowing a lot of stuff.
That's a very good way to put it.
Fantastic. So I think that we've been for our 1 hour. I think like we have, at least I talked for myself, a lot of room of improvement and to reflect, and because I think like there's always room to improve this. It's an ongoing process. So now I just listening to this, I was like, shit, I have to implement so many stuff. I need to like improve this, and I know this, but I don't do it. Why I don't do it? Because I know it. It's like these kind of reflections that I'm feeling for myself. So imagine like people who has like bigger teams that I'm sure like we leave them with a lot of homework. And if you are not the leader and you would love to get lead in this way, maybe you can share this talk to your leader as like an introductory to the improving themselves.
The link to the quiz, like, hey, do this link, do this quiz.
Exactly, it could be like a good exercise to do. It's like, we could do everybody this test, but always I think it's cool to do like test if like they are good and you recommend them, not like the Facebook test of leadership. Is more like I think a more serious test. So I think it's cool like to get to know yourself, and I hope that you got like a lot of insights as well. And either if you are watching this in live or in the recording, if you want to leave us your comments, the way you see it, practices, what you implement, what you do, please do share it, because I think it's super cool like to know what others are doing in this aspect and to keep learning together. And I want to like to mention 2 books that you mentioned, Mickey, that I think they are cool to remember. And that is like the Culture book. I think that the Culture Code book from David Boyle, I think it is. Daniel Boyle. Something like
today with the names, it's like Phil Jackson.
And the second one was like high output management, which I think that you're a big fan of it.
Andy Grove. And the third one, which is where the quiz comes from, is Multipliers. I forgot the name of the author, but it's really, really interesting. Even if you don't read the book, just go online and check the resources. You can download a couple of frameworks that are really, really interesting. So yeah. These are the three for today, I guess.
Fantastic. Cecilia was saying like, yes, it's like emotional leadership. So at the end, it's like everything. People feel emotions the way people connect to companies and make them stay loyal and engaged. It's emotions. It's like nothing else. So how they feel. So yeah, and thank you everyone for watching it. If, as you know, like this is the 9th Quartet Masterclass. So we did already 9 Quartet Masterclasses touching different points. So if you're interested, you can go into our YouTube channel. And also, if you want to receive a written summary and the recordings and the new talks that we're going to be doing every 2 weeks, because now it's going to be like holiday time. I think we're going to take a rest. But in order to stay updated, we just send the recording and the summary of the talk and the next talk. So you can subscribe in our newsletter at getquartet.com. and I hope to. We hope to receive your feedback on anything in order to improve these talks. And thank you, Mickey, for this amazing presentation that I know that you put a lot of thought behind it, and also Alex for your input as well. Guys, if you want to say bye, and we're gonna wrap up this.
Nothing on my end. The leader here is me. Just thanks for being here, and thanks, Mickey.
The leader. No, thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure as always. And yeah, as always, if you took just one insight that's going to be useful for you, then we're happy. And thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.